Hello, children. You're listening to third episode of my podcast. Several weeks have elapsed since I uploaded the last mini episode, and there are a few changes. I originally mentioned that the third episode is gonna be a gaming sequel with my recurring guest, Nararnius. We recorded the episode and I was about to upload it, but my hard drive decided otherwise. It crashed, and amongst all the data I had lost was the podcast episode as well. We had a small conversation on this topic, and he agreed that it's almost impossible to compress the whole gaming topic into 2 episodes, so in the near future, you can expect some more episodes on games, gaming, and gamers. Now I was really keen on catching somewhat creative and chatty brony, and then interviewing him. I almost succeeded, but these individuals tend to be really shy and introverted, so he chickened out. Still, I'm not giving up, and hopefully, in upcoming weeks, I'll manage to hunt one of them down. And now for something completely different. My today's guest, fan of stand-up and comedy in general, seeker of the truth, friendly misanthrope, and my friend Chard.
Hey, how's it going?
Thank you very much for joining me here today.
Oh,
Before
it's
we
my pleasure, Emes.
Yeah, thanks. Before we start with specific topics, please tell us something more about yourself.
About myself,
Yes.
well, I am a 43-year-old married man living in Seattle, Washington. I don't have a job. I am a housewife or a house husband for my beautiful wife, and I have some health problems, which is what keeps me home, and that's pretty much what I do. I'm relatively uneducated, but I'm sure we'll get into that later.
First, I'd like to say I really like you being honest. It's really important for
Well,
for
you
me.
had me on here, so I figured honesty would be the best policy.
That is. So let's start with more specific topics. What about comedy? What do you think about comedy and humor in general?
Comedy and humor in general, it's such a broad topic. I think that there's nothing that really can't be joked about. I've been into comedy ever since I was a kid. I grew up in such pain that I think I leaned towards things that made me laugh. And so, my first exposure to real intellectual comedy was probably Woody Allen. I
Oh,
was a big fan of Woody Allen
I would say
as a
that's a good
kid.
start.
Yeah, and when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, I was really into Woody, and not a lot of my friends even knew who he was. So obviously, right there was a branch.
Hmm.
But and then I moved on to I would say that I have a pantheon of comics. Would start with Woody, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Bill Hicks. Uh,
So
maybe
those,
maybe even Lenny Bruce, although I wasn't much of a Lenny Bruce fan growing up. I've come to appreciate him more as an adult.
right. So you mentioned having these terrible health issues. So you're saying the comedy in general is important part of your life.
It is absolutely, absolutely. Even like I only watch comedy on television. People will ask me, "Do you watch Law and Order? Have you ever seen anything like that? Any of the dramas?" And
Right.
Shannon and I just don't. We're just into comedy. We just love to laugh.
I understand. So considering movies and TV shows and stuff, you're not that into them in general. You're more like into comedy. If there's
Yeah.
something you're gonna watch in television, that's gonna be some comedy show or something.
Oh, we like, the basics around here for us is like the Daily Show and the Colbert Report, you know,
Right.
and Saturday Night Live. I remember watching the very first Saturday Night Live when I was only 6, and that probably affected me greatly.
Right.
Staying up really late as a 6-year-old and watching George Carlin on the very first Saturday Night Live. Yeah, that sticks with you. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. First
definitely.
time, the first time you saw, Eddie Murphy doing stand up in Raw, or the other one, which I can't
The other black person.
remember. Yeah.
Okay, first thing I should eventually cut off, but I won't. I'm
Oh
just
well,
kidding.
however
I'm
you
just
have.
kidding. No. Um,
But
Obviously
comedy's
this
important to
this
everybody. Comedy's important to everybody.
I would say so, definitely. Obviously, this episode is about yourself and about your opinions, but out you mentioning the comedy starts, the first exposures. I
Mhm.
Me and comedy, I'm quite not sure where actually I got into it a little bit more because you got movies and stuff that are kind of funny, but
Mhm.
you don't even think about it in a deeper. But my like a true in a way penetration into comedy was totally or Monty Python's. You see, it was something different. When I first saw it, was like I was like I find it funny, but I don't know why. It was something really different that you can see in television or you can hear on radio or something. So that's maybe the place where I started, and maybe
They
why.
had that brilliant television show
Yeah,
that went on for so long. Yeah, they were a huge influence to a generation. As far as English comedy,
right,
growing up, I was really, and it might just be because he was on television here every night, but we always watched Benny Hill.
right,
Yeah, so I grew up with a lot of slapstick, Benny Hill, a lot of tits and ass, running around,
right.
uh, you know, funny songs kind of thing.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've got a really soft spot for Benny Hill. Not uh, not putting down Monty Python. I love Monty
Sure,
Python.
sure.
Their shows and the movies.
Hmm.
The Dead Parrot sketch,
Right.
classic.
Hmm.
You know, it would be too much to the large.
The large,
Yeah,
just out of a blue, just the
yeah,
large, yeah.
the large.
But again,
So
I think we can agree on one thing that comedy is it depends on your background a lot. Maybe for you, I actually heard about Americans that are really into Monty Pythons, but it's kind of a maybe English, maybe a bit European thing because it's a little bit more raw, I would say, than American culture. Do you agree, or do you think it's different?
well, it's definitely more raw in the fact of, say, nudity. Because Benny Hill, I remember growing up, had all those ladies in the scanty clothes,
Hmm.
sometimes even showing breasts,
Right.
um, and that kind of stuff isn't even allowed to be shown on television
Even
here in
today,
America.
yeah.
Yeah, so to that extent. And yeah, I would even go so far as to say Monty Python here in America, while they're revered as the geniuses that they are is still considered nerd comedy.
Right.
It's a niche, so they probably don't get the justice they deserve as far as just being genuinely funny in a natural sense.
Yeah, that's what I actually agree because it's to me at least it's not the type of humor that you would laugh instantly when you hear the joke. You see?
Yeah,
To me
yeah,
it
lots.
was like my brain was laughing. I wasn't actually laughing, I was just sitting, maybe even I wasn't even smiling when I was watching it, but I know that my brain was really happy and
Mhm.
shining. So
Yeah,
that's my feelings what I have about Monty Pythons.
yeah. Monty Python would well, and kind of not to draw a comparison because I would say they're different, but Woody Allen here is would be considered intellectual comedy too, I would assume.
Definitely, I would
Yeah,
say I would agree with that.
especially if you listen to his early stand up. He's got things about psychoanalysis and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And so just being exposed to that kind of comedy as a young kid,
Hmm.
probably leans you towards smarter comedy growing up as opposed to if you're just watching, cartoons, you know.
Hmm. Well, we mentioned few stand-up comedians that are kind of more intellectual than a common American stand-up comedian. Again, no offense uh, to you or to the culture, but
My culture.
I mean, not your culture, but culture of your nation.
Oh yeah, well,
But again, the Monty Pythons were, at least to me, it was something. Even it started some sort of a lifestyle to me. You see, it showed me a different ways to viewing things, and that's mainly why I'm kind of grateful to actually being exposed to the show like that. But yeah, again, I wouldn't say that there is a stupid and intelligent humor. I would say that humor is humor. I don't know. But again,
oh, there's varieties and variations. There's slapstick humor, and there's drop your pants humor or trip the guy, watch him fall on a banana peel type humor, and then there's humor,
sure.
that delves into the human condition and life and death and politics, and it all has a place, you know. I
Uh, I,
definitely have an appreciation for all different types of humor.
that was actually one of my questions. I wanted to ask if like what aspects of humor and comedy do you like, and what you don't like about comedy, or is it some sort of a some sort of a stand-up comedian or someone who you really can't watch because you hate him?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess if you want to get down to it, I do have a certain aversion to the all American type of humor that has. I was gonna say that it has kind of recently emerged, like since 9/11. You've got the Larry the Cable Guy and that kind of redneck humor.
Right.
But actually, when I think about it, that redneck humor has been around all along. There was humor. There's hee haw when I was growing up, and Andy Griffith was really popular as a stand-up comic before he became famous.
Hmm.
As the sheriff of Mayberry, he was a down-home stand-up comic doing the
Right.
American twang comedy, and that was in the 50s. So here in America, that all American
Almost
type of redneck humor has always been there.
that impression almost sounded like a George Bush to me.
No.
I mean the second one, the younger.
Oh, the younger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Texas.
Yeah. So that would be the only type of humor that rubs me the wrong way. But even then, I can get behind a Larry the Cable Guy. I can see what he's doing, and I can get behind some of his fart jokes.
Right,
I just find it a little too easy, a little too simple. That's
right.
all.
Yeah, why I even mentioned being something intelligent or unintelligent considering humor, it's because some of the Monty Python's fans were like this is the humor, and anything else is just just
people
primitive.
get
Yeah,
people get cliquish, man. People find things they like and then they glom onto it and they start hating everything else.
yeah, and that's why I kind of think that obviously there are some jokes that are more complex, let's say, but in general, humor is humor, and when you laugh, you laugh. That's about it, I
Well,
would say.
like Daniel Tosh got in trouble here about, I don't know, 6 months ago for making a rape joke uh,
Right.
offhand in a comedy club, and ever since then, um, my wife and I will be watching TV, and I'm not going to be able to come up with any specifics, but every once in a while we'll say, "Now wait a minute, wasn't that kind of a rape joke that guy just made?" And she'll go, "Yeah, that was a rape joke." So
Hmm.
so people get up in arms about things without even thinking about it. People get offended by things without even meaning to.
I agree.
It's human nature.
So you mentioned censorship. What do you think about mainly American censorship in like primetime television and stuff?
Well, I think that the television, especially primetime television, is controlled by, just a few corporations, and that they have a certain narrow agenda that they want to show. So you're not going to find a lot of variety or a lot of spectrum of thought on primetime television, whether you're watching comedy or anything else. Maybe the only exceptions would be Daily Show and Colbert Report, which I mentioned earlier. But then again, they're owned by Viacom, so they only have a certain spectrum that they speak to. And every once in a while, Jon Stewart, I think, is being a corporate shill. So, so censorship is definitely alive and well here in America, and pretty sinister, and almost getting worse from a layman's perspective.
And do you think it's important to kind of regulate what people can say in television or not?
Uh, I do think I don't know. That's a good question. These are philosophical type questions. You know, you get down to freedom of speech and who should be heard and who shouldn't be heard,
We'll get
and
there. Don't worry about that.
yeah, I think I actually am pretty wide open to in the arena of ideas. But I feel that once those ideas are shot down or proven false or discarded by the masses, that they should stay that way. And there just always seems to be somebody bringing up old problems. Like if we looked at the Bible rationally, it wouldn't have lasted 2,000 years. So, people drum up problems. So should they be silenced? I don't know. Maybe if the problem they're drumming up has been heard before, maybe so.
So it's a hardcore topic that which
It
really
is
needs
hard
several
topic.
hours.
I guess it all stands on the merits of the speech being considered for censorship. Instead of saying is censorship a viable plan, I guess the question is, well, what are you trying to censor first?
Definitely.
Is censorship good? I don't know. What are you trying to censor?
Yeah, it's I would say personally I would think that it's about specific things. There's censorship I actually uh, can see myself. Like for example, I remember you speaking with you about the World of Warcraft censorship. You see the PEGI thing that goes in a gaming and stuff. That when in the game you can actually see people killing people and stuff. There's it's bloodbath in a way, which is kind of ironic because it's a bloodbath, but you can't see blood because blood is bad, but killing is okay.
Right.
See,
Right.
that's the whole point. What I disagree with.
Okay, see, like, so that in that respect, censorship isn't actually talking about speech. It's talking about what you can see. Like say with war, should they be able to show? Should the media be able to show the coffins coming back draped in flags?
Mm.
Some people say they shouldn't because it hurts the people who lost people in war, and some people say that they should show it because it shows the cost of war. And there's valid arguments on both sides.
Yeah. In general, it's hard to say general things about this, but I think people maybe overthink this censorship thing a lot. I think there should be less of it in general, and then if you actually, again, it's a common sense thing. If
Mhm.
it's something which is really untasteful and just plain stupid, then obviously why not? But this is really almost like a totalitarian censorship in a way, if you think about it. It's just
Yeah.
there's a thing that goes into television, and now will we censor it or not? It's like the question is asked about anything you can see everywhere. I don't know, it's maybe too
Well,
much.
and when you get down to it, it's almost laughable what gets censored and what doesn't. I mean, you're talking about primetime television where you can see, hundreds of murders and acts of gun violence and sexual assaults, but you can't show a woman's breasts,
Yeah, exactly. That's what
or
I
a
would.
buttock. So it's our censorship is one thing, but puritanism is
Yeah,
another thing. Hey, sweetie. Sorry, my dog just walked in the room.
no worries. Maybe maybe let's let him say something about censorship. What does
No
he think
censorship.
about censorship?
Well, she's got nothing to say.
No canine censorship in US.
No. But see, the fact that when she walked in the room and I said, "Hey, sweetie," that shows I'm not censoring myself.
Good. Anyways, right. You mentioned the thing like showing dead people and deaths and rapes, but not actually showing the thing like the breast or the
Sex
corpse
or
or
people
something.
making love. Yeah.
Yeah, that's again that's a topic that should be discussed, I think. Me personally, I don't think that's the way it is right now. That's the right way, as it should be. I think if you are showing if you're talking about murders or killing people, then you should show some blood. If you're talking about sex, there shouldn't be problem to show a breast or something. I don't know. It
Yeah.
kind of goes along with the topic. It's obviously it's harder than that. It's not uh, like maybe it's about longer discussion, but I don't know. Some of
Well,
the
with the internet, if you don't want censorship, you can go out on the internet and you can find, snuff films, for crying out loud. You can see uncensored anything you want on the internet. So if you're anti-censorship, you really can live a censorship-free life if you want to. But things like World of Warcraft and primetime television and stuff like that, those are corporate-owned systems that are trying to bring in the most viewers, the most players, and so they kind of have to pretty things up and dumb things down in order to reach the most broad audience they can, in order to bring in the most money they can.
Well, I agree with that, and obviously, when if you want to see tits and vaginas and stuff, then you can find it on internet. But
And who doesn't? Who doesn't want to see tits and vaginas?
well, homosexuals, maybe.
Oh, good point. There you go.
Yeah, I'm witty. Yeah, totally. Now, I mean, it's about some
Anyone
sort of a
see-
mainstream because some people just I don't want to say they're stupid, but some people are just simpler and they don't tend to look for things and whatever they see in mainstream shit, then it's what actually is happening to their lives. And if you think about it,
Yeah.
it's like half of the planet now. It's like the the people who
What?
come home from work, start the television, and what they see, that's what their life is
That's what
about.
they get.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then that turns into what they think, and
yeah,
that's how
yeah,
that
and
turns into how they vote.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And they being the powers that be, they count on that. That people are dumb and lazy, and they're going to come home. And Roger Ailes has a quote, um, and I'm not going to be able to think of it, but it says that exactly that. People are lazy. They'll think what we tell them to think, and whatever is on the TV is what they'll think. So we need a Fox News in order to tell them that.
mhm.
Um, you know, but I think the trend is in the future is going to be towards such personalization that the mainstream is going to disappear, and that everybody's information and entertainment is going to be personally tailored to what they want. Uh, I mean, it'll still be controlled by huge corporations like Google and Yahoo and YouTube and all your internet providers, but that content will then be streamlined for each individual user, and so they won't come home and see everybody will be watching Fox. They'll be watching their own personal type of network, and if they're a conservative person, it's going to show them conservative programming. If they're a liberal person, it'll show them liberal programming.
And
Uh,
tits.
that
I'm
yeah,
just kidding.
you'll get either God and country over here, tits and ass over there, blood and gore over there, uh, you know, laughs and jokes over here. So and it'll all be streamlined just the way they're starting to do with advertising now. You know, uh, and I want to say that I've heard one of the cable companies is going to start allowing you to buy channels individually,
Mhm.
so you don't have to buy all the channels at once. So
That
they're
makes
already,
sense.
yeah, it does.
But yeah, it maybe would be good that way because it would actually make people think. It would make
Exactly.
them decide. And sometimes these kind of I don't want to use term stupid people, but just people are kind of They don't think that they need to think. They think that people will think instead of them, so they don't even try. They,
Dude, to a
again,
certain extent, I have to agree with you.
to a certain extent, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always that part of me that says that people are really busy. You know, they've got lives, they've got kids,
Well, sure.
bills, they've got lots of pressures on them and stuff. But you're right. I think that I might be making it too light on them because people do have a certain responsibility to do some thinking on the weekends and not just give it up to barbecues and football and beer and stuff. So you're right.
I would
You're
say
right.
it's important because obviously, well, people have a hardcore jobs and many children. That's obviously it's important. But when you actually then want to have a bit of a rest and start the television, and again, you see some networking, some uh, not just advertisement, but I don't know, news or something, then people tend to accept it as their own opinion, and that's what's dangerous. I'm not saying people, Jesus Christ, do anything what you want to. I don't know, if you like to lick pavements, then lick pavements. I don't care, but think about it. You see, don't lick pavements because they told you on television.
Yeah,
You see,
yeah, yeah. Well, that's unfortunately what a lot of people do, you know.
lick
They,
pavements.
well, you can call it licking pavements, but they watch the football. They get excited about the American Idol. They don't want to think because then when you start thinking about really hardcore things, you know, life, death, the future. People don't want to think about that kind of stuff, especially people with kids. They don't want to look at the future. The future looks like shit. You know, they don't want to see the future that their kids have in store for them. The fascist dictatorship that's slowly being built around them. You know, so it's more fun to just turn off for 3 or 4 hours a week.
It is more fun, but again, as you said, if they want to fight for their future, they should start doing a little more than just sending taxes. That's what I think.
No, it's
See?
true. It's true, you know, and that's where arguments on Facebook start, you know, because
Mm,
your friend posts something, and then you try and say, well, that's not actually the way it is, and
mm,
they come back and say, right, yes, it is, and you don't know what you're talking about. Next thing you know, you're having a fight with someone you've known for 20 years
yeah,
over politics. Uh, so some people, you've seen The Matrix. Some people don't
sure.
want to be pulled out of the Matrix. Some people aren't ready to be shown
That's
what's
maybe
behind the
that's
curtain.
that's a really valid point what you just mentioned, because yeah, some people don't want to be, as Bill Hicks said, uh, the ride, it has to be real, because look
Yeah,
look at my bank account, look at
yeah,
my,
look at my bank account. Yeah.
yeah,
And he does this when he does it. He pumps his arms up,
yeah,
makes him look like a big guy. Look at my bank account. This has to be real.
yeah.
No, none of it's real. None of it's real.
Yeah, maybe before you actually start fighting for your bank accounts and I don't know, your yachts and cars and stuff, you should actually think what's worth fighting. I don't know.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you talk about yachts. I mean, I'm living in a country where where people are begging for health care, but you get a tax break for a corporate jet.
Mm,
It just makes no sense. Uh, so you're right. The majority of the people uh, don't really care or can't care, and then that extrapolates out to the people who are our leaders, our elected representatives. They end up not caring or only caring about themselves, and so this is what we get.
hmm
You know, Carlin said that. If it was the case that we were all so altruistic and egalitarian, where are the righteous leaders? Where are the people of substance to say this enough's enough? There aren't any, because we have a garbage system and we get what we produce, and garbage in, garbage out. So we get the leaders we deserve because that's what we produce.
That's exactly, yeah, that's a really interesting thing, that because people are arguing and saying politicians are rotten and it's just terrible how we are there, but it's just uh that's how you are. It's just how to
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird when you step back and you look at it that way. Then you realize that it might even be a species thing, a human species thing, and we might not even be able to overcome it until there's a grand enlightenment
Mm.
or a next step in evolution, something like that, because something's holding us back, whether it's a man-made construct or it's something genetic inside us that we need to evolve past. The lizard brain dominating the top brain or whatever. Something is definitely wrong.
So now, what about it? What to do?
What to do? That's what I mean. Is it something that we can change, or is it something we have to wait for it to ultimately change on its own?
I mean, what do you think we should or could do about that?
Well, I don't know. Our systems are so entrenched.
Mm.
Our systems from our governmental systems to our monetary system, the economic systems, uh, all, everything down to food distribution and energy production are so entrenched that I don't see I don't see a lot of great change happening. You
S-
know,
So do you think capitalism as we have it now, is it the way? Is it the right way how we should evolve? Or do you think there has to be some big change like in a society in a way how society works?
well, you asked, and I'm going to answer, and I'm going to say that I don't think capitalism is the way. I think that there is a better way, whether it's a resource-based economy or something
Mm.
like that. But whether we can get it, that's a totally different question, and I really don't think that's going to happen. I think capitalism is going to survive whether we want it to or not. I think capitalism has essentially won and will continue to win until it falls apart. I don't think we're going to be able to destroy capitalism. It's going to have to destroy itself, taking everybody with it.
Mm.
And then we'll have to rebuild from the ashes, literally, probably from the ashes.
Maybe, as you said, maybe it's there's need of some sort of a brain evolution, like
Possibly.
because most of the people just don't have the capacities to actually accept some sort of a maybe more developed um, structure, let's say. For example, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of socialism, but people say that it would be a good way how to do things if people actually would be able to accept that we are on the same level. But because they can't, they we never will have this regime. You see?
Yeah, well, it depends on what you mean by on this. We're all on the same level.
Not just not just like intellectually and considering racism and stuff. I mean
Uh,
even considering capital, money and stuff. So people
right.
won't be able to actually accept that they will have the same range as person next to them. See,
Hmm.
maybe that's yeah.
I I think that as far as everybody's concerned, we're all humans, and so we all need basics, which is air,
Mm,
water, food, uh, a shelter of some kind, and socialism provides that to the least among us, regardless of their ability to provide it for themselves. And I think that's the human uh, way of approaching a society, is that there's always going to be the very lowest, not lowest, the ones with the least ability to take care of themselves must be taken care of by the whole. As long as there's a desire to not do that, then we're subhuman in a way, and we haven't evolved to the point where if it's pure capitalism, someone's being left out in the rain. If it's pure socialism, then someone's not able to live up to their uh, fullest capabilities.
mhm.
And so, obviously, a blend of capitalism and socialism is necessary. Unfortunately, we're living in a society, whether it's a human trait or whether it's manufactured by the media, but we're separated. It's either left or right, Democrat, Republican, socialist, or capitalist, and never does anything get blended.
I agree. And
And
again,
it's always in the blending where you find the most harmony.
It's what I say. I'm not a big fan of the way how things are right now, but
Hmm.
I mean, you can do it right. You can do capitalism in a right way if you actually start running some of the basics of social policies, I think. Because as you said it, we need some basics. We need shelter, we need food, we need water, and
Hmm.
you should be able to provide that to everyone. Obviously, it's kind of a dragging the whole economy down, maybe even the progress in quotes. But
Of the human race. Yes, exactly. The fact that we don't look out for the least among us might be holding us back uh, from moving on as a species, from growing. You
mhm.
know,
And
in capitalism, it's always for a profit, and so that profit always comes at the expense of something else. When it starts to come at the expense of someone else, that's when we should worry.
mhm. All right, so we mentioned comedy really briefly. Um, we mentioned politics. Again, considering comedy, there are some certain individuals we should totally mention because we both will feel bad if we won't mention them. So, um, George Carlin,
Absolutely, he's a god. No, actually, I can't say that. He's not a god, but he is
he's,
definitely a
yeah,
genius. Yeah, genius philosopher.
right. What about Hicks?
Hicks. Well, I got into Hicks right after 9/11, and which is a lot of people did. And you got into Hicks just recently,
I
and
did.
so I kind of envy you being able to go back for the first time and hear all these things he's got to say.
Mm.
Hicks is a wonderful guy uh, for laughs and to make you think.
It's kind of an interesting thing I'd like to tackle. That there are some certain people like George Carlin or Bill Hicks or maybe few other that actually there's some sort of a transition between being a comedian and being a philosopher or even like a spokesman for a change or something. And
Sure.
that's what I think is really important about comedy. You see that.
Well, comedy definitely hits all those aspects. It hits it, and that's what's so great about it, is that it hits the human nature as well as the human funny bone.
Mhm.
It's just as funny to see someone slip on a banana peel as it is to joke about death.
Mhm.
It's a different type of joke, but when you laugh, it's
You
the
laugh.
same laugh. Yeah, a laugh is a laugh is a laugh.
Hmm. Again, I'm a big fan of comedy, but I think it may be even more important than it used to be because we kind of maybe agree that there's some sort of a path, and we're maybe taking a wrong path now, and it could
Mhm.
even get worse than it is right now. So people like that, like Carlin or Hicks or other people that I've forget to mention, will be even more important for us to actually bring some information to masses. For example, myself, I'm a thinking person. I could eventually get to the information, but just by wanting to have a laugh, just
Mhm.
I don't know, having a dinner and watching Carlin's show, just for a laugh, actually was able to. He was able to change my mind on some aspects, made me think, and that's what I think is really important to have these people who can that can blend it, make it funny,
Mhm.
and make
Mhm.
it really informative and thought-provoking.
Yeah, well, Carlin underwent a transformation um, in his Jammin' in New York special. Everything after that, he became way more political. And he
Hmm.
hit on capital punishment and what to do about the homeless and stuff like that. And in interviews, he said that he had an epiphany after jamming in New York that he should I don't remember how he put it, but
I
he
understand.
yeah, he changed his style from talking about the everyday things of picking your nose and
Yeah.
don't it's funny that we all sweat and stuff like that to to political
Dog
things.
licking your balls and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, which is funnier than hell. But he felt that there was more to be said,
Hmm.
and he felt that especially after jamming in New York, he really took off and found his voice. And that's funny because he had been a comedian for 30 years
Hmm.
before then, and
And
so
he started being big when he was like 40, am I right? Because before he was like a university comedian in bars and stuff, and then he got some sort of a breakthrough, maybe even
it was
thanks to HBO.
HBO.
Yeah,
HBO was what did it for him. Those HBO specials.
yeah, 77 and 78, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Carlin at Carnegie, which I believe was 81,
Mm.
was his breakthrough where everybody was saying, "Did you see that show? Did you see
Hmm.
Carlin's last special?" So everyone after that was like a must-see type of thing.
Hmm.
And even then there was, he had 4 or 5 of those before he hit jamming with New York and started and really found his voice. So he'd been a working comedian, but he still hadn't found his voice,
Hmm.
for 30 years, which just goes to show that some people never find their voice,
Hmm.
you know?
And in general, if you think about it, it goes against this sort of a lining of your life, like education, work, wife, kids, and death.
Well,
So
that's just the line that they draw for you.
yeah, and
We
just
we all know that line
they
doesn't work.
say that you should decide what you want to do when you're like 18, 19, and then you should follow the idea. But most successful people like him, and not just successful people, but important people for us as a species, I would say even, although
Hmm.
many people would disagree with me that Carlin is important for our species, but I think he is a lot.
I do
And
too.
even people like that tend to uh, it takes some time before they get on the track and get the line of their
Yeah,
work.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
I mean, and as far as the line between stand-up comedy and philosophy, uh, I mean, even as far back as I know, the only person who really could ever tell the truth in any society was the comedian or the joker. I
hmm.
mean, look back at in medieval times, and
Yeah, kings.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely no historic scholar. Yeah, it was the jester. You
Hmm.
know, the jester was the only one who could speak the truth to the king because he made it funny.
And
Uh,
ironically, he was the lowest in society. He was the
you
yeah.
bet. And if he told a bad joke, he got his head cut off.
Hmm. Jesus.
I know,
Talking
but
about censorship.
exactly. Talking about
Right.
censorship. Uh, but now here we are in the 21st century, and who's speaking the truth? It's definitely not the media. It's
Hmm.
definitely not the government. It's the comics. And going back to Daily Show and Colbert Report, they're probably as close to real news here in America as I'm ever going to get. And
Yeah.
they're comedy shows, they're half-hour comedy shows.
Don't want to sound insulting, but personally, I'm kind of surprised that you actually have some show that actually says something that is really true in a television that you can actually see. Because that's what I like about internet now. That because if you really want to, if you really have some sort of a basic capacities, like I mean IQ over 100, for example, then then you can find the truth or the truth I don't the truth it's general, but you can find actually what's going on, what is bad, what should be better, but and you can make your own opinion now with internet. So people,
Yes.
yeah, so people saying that internet is a bane of humanity and it's gonna bring us into the depths of hell, that I wouldn't say.
No, I don't. Whoever's saying that is crazy. The internet is the most important tool to be invented since probably the wheel.
Mm,
And as far as censorship is concerned, the internet can only be censored locally as long as there's a globe. The only way that they'll be able to, they being the powers that be, will be able to totally censor the internet is if there's a one world government.
hmm.
As long as there's different nations, as long as there's borders, the internet will always be able to survive and survive free because it can be channeled, around states,
Hmm.
around places where the internet is being
Countries, yeah.
censored. So yeah, so people can communicate one on one as long as there's an internet structure there and not a one world government that's controlling it. So
Now,
the internet is going to be probably the tool of man's freedom at some point.
now thinking about it, we mentioned that in a way humanity is going into hell, like considering politics.
Carlin called it circling the drain.
Yeah, that's how it is. And it's
Circling the drain.
now where's the drain? Let's wait for the drain. Uh, I mean, we mentioned that there's some sort of evolution in capitalism and in forms of state and countries and stuff, but it's not improving, obviously. But now, uh, as the really interesting and important British politic said, I just lost the name, can't remember. You know, the one who led Brits during Second World War.
Who led the what?
The Britons in Great.
Churchill?
Yeah, that's the one. I'm totally embarrassed that I forgot his name
That's
because
okay.
he's
Okay.
one of my actually one of the people who I think were kind of intelligent as opposed to leaders now. And he said, "Give us the tools and we'll do the job." You see. And now I would say internet is the tool. So if there's a problem that um, you see there's a censorship and medias are saying this and governments are saying totally different thing that is opposed to the truth of what's actually happening. We have got the tool. We now have got the way how to communicate, how to show each other that the truth is different, that we can actually make change. We can think on our own. We can do the difference on our own. And the tool is right here. It's sitting in your living room. It's in the computer, in quotes. And it's now it's just on people. Now it depends if they really want to or if they're really happy with being connected to Matrix, as you mentioned.
They're really, unfortunately, the reality seems to be that they're really happy being connected to the Matrix.
Mm, unfortunately. So maybe
Yeah.
even if, yeah, so they're gonna take the blue pill, obviously, because
Mhm.
it's easier for them. I mean
Yeah.
the blue pill, not the blue pill like a boner pill. I mean, you're
I
speaking of Matrix,
knew
and he's
what you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah,
red pill or the blue pill.
yeah, yeah. Red
No, I
pill,
mean
red
it's
pill, or
it's.
the boner pill.
Well, if that's the case, I'll take the blue pill.
Yeah, I'll
Take
take
the bonus.
both of them.
No, but you're right, and it's pessimistic to think that way. But that's where I say that capitalism, or power in general, is going to have to collapse in upon itself, because there really isn't a resistance to be formed. And if there was, I really feel that they've got the ability to squash any resistance that's there. So the real pessimist in me thinks that they're going to have to, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Mm,
And ultimately, the system is going to have to crumble on its own. And that's a big difference between a revolution forcing the system to crumble.
mm.
You know what I mean?
I completely agree. Yeah, but again, uh, you mentioned like systems crumbling on its own. But again, people tend to throw out the regimes. But it has to be so obvious that they're wrong that people actually have to stand up and say, okay, let's take the red pill now. You see, like, I don't know, fascism, for example, they actually had to decide to go there to actually throw it down, overthrow it. Um,
Mm.
it kind of, if you think about it, it did to itself on its own, but actually you have the people who actually have to go there fight. So
Uh-huh.
now
Yeah.
that's the question. If actually someone kind of shows to the masses that this is wrong and we can do it better, or if it's gonna go this way on and on and on, who knows?
Well, it won't go this way on and on and on, and it may not come to someone getting showing that there's a better way to do it. It may come to, I mean, because you can't escape entropy. Every system
Hmm.
falls apart by itself, regardless. There is no perfect system. I mean, the universe itself is falling apart because of entropy. So there's no way to avoid it. The
Yeah.
question is whether we, as a society of thinking people, can speed that entropy up and force the crumbling of the system. And I'm not sure if we've got it in us anymore. Back in the day, when the biggest piece of technology was a plane. Uh, World War II was still fought with conventional explosives and guns and stuff. Now things are done with cyber warfare, and there's biological things going on, and they've got drones that can hunt you down, so they don't even have to spend any of their own energy to get you anymore. They can just fly a drone over and bomb you. It just seems like fascism globally has really gotten a foothold, thanks to my country.
Applaud.
Overreacting. Yeah, round of applause, since we overreacted to 9/11. And some people might even say that the foundations were laid with the Reagan administration. Um, so globally, it might be a bigger struggle than it was in smaller pockets to overthrow fascism here or a dictator there. It may be a bigger deal in the future to really, really affect some serious change. I'm not saying it'll never happen. I assume it will, but I think it's going to be a much bigger difference than just, cutting off someone's head or two,
Now, the problem is with fascism, usually, obviously, people eventually realize that it's bad. But now, again, as we mentioned like 100,000 times tonight, that people think that things are going okay. So maybe, as we said, the politicians are just a sample of us in a way. So now
Yeah,
we have to sort of change the minds of the people, just
yeah.
by making them think. And now that's the problem because they maybe will just kind of enjoy what's happening right now.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, to a certain extent, and I've talked about this with my wife, is that, I'm dependent on the system. We're all dependent on the system. We all need the water treatment plants to keep running, and the garbage to be taken away. But to a deeper extent, see, I'm dependent on the system for clotting factor. My blood doesn't clot. So if there's a huge revolution and everything falls to shit and the dollar collapses and
Mm,
it's if it's apocalypse, I'm toast. And
mm.
speaking totally selfishly, I'd like the blood supply to keep coming. So
That's maybe the
I
truth. Yeah, when where
yeah.
there's a big change, I don't know what's gonna do about social policies. Yeah,
Hmm.
and yeah.
So if there is a big change, a lot of people are going to probably die.
Mm.
And if that's what it takes, that's usually what a revolution takes, is a lot of deaths on both sides. But I'm kind of hoping that if there is a revolution, it happens after I'm gone, because as selfish as that is, I'm entrenched in the system too. I don't like it, but I need it. I want a comfortable life. I can't go out there and fight with torches and picket signs and stuff. That's for someone else.
Right. Well, last topic for today is gonna do it really quickly. Um, Religion. What do you think about religion?
But we should be able to handle religion real quick.
Yeah, wrong.
No.
Over. Goodbye.
I think religion is probably inbred in us. I think that we our brains are wired to think that there's somebody out there, and so that is taken advantage of by the organized religions that use that to guilt us into behaving the way they want us to behave.
Unfortunately, people are taking the wrong parts of religion. I never said that religion in general is bad. I think it can it can kind of give you, I don't know, it can motivate you. It can, I don't know, it should actually make you think that the person that is standing next to you is your brother, and you should support everyone. You should spread love to everyone. But if you think about it in general, and obviously it's a big topic, it what it had done in the past, it was the opposite of this. It was opposite of thinking that we're all equal and we're brothers and we should spread love and peace and stuff. But wars were usually based on uh, Christianity, and stuff. So it's kind of a, yeah, it's maybe one of the things that we should drop.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to be able to drop religion because no matter how much we learn about the universe, somebody's always going to be able to one up it with, well, what about this? Well, what about this? You know, okay, you solved the Big Bang. Well, what about before the Big Bang? You know, and then they'll be able to build a religion around that.
But
So
again,
unfortunately, yeah, I think religion is here to stay. I think our main problem is reining it in and keeping it from spilling over
mm,
into the other parts of society where it doesn't belong.
I
But
maybe said it in a bad way. Me personally, I wouldn't even say I'm atheist. I'm sort of a kind of agnostic even. I kind of believe that there may be something bigger, but the problem is people are kind of they're used to not accepting facts, you see. I think there are
what
some
they
certain
accept,
facts.
go ahead.
No, I mean there are some certain facts about nature that we should be able to accept. And Carlin talks a lot about that. Even Bill Maher talks a lot about that. Even he's a bit partisan, but I still like him a lot, kind of. But they mentioned it many times that just religion is harmful to us. We're not. I personally think we are not using the good sides of the religion, that we should realize that we are one people under the God, if you think God is real. But instead of it, it's we're using the opposite. We're saying no, you shouldn't do that because it says in a book
Mm-hmm.
where there's a snake that speaks and a flying man and
Oh,
a
that,
God
yeah.
that impregnates a woman even without touching her and stuff like that. So I think there's something wrong with this, with people. I think they should actually read it again because the book itself is not that bad. It's a kind of, you can actually take good things out of it.
Yeah, well, it was Gandhi who said, "I like your Christ, I don't care for your Christians."
Nice.
Yeah, you know.
And Bill
It,
Maher said, I like America. That's Americans I can't stand.
exactly. Exactly. And George Carlin said that I like people individually, but when you get them into large
Yeah,
groups, they're scary and
in short bursts. I like them in short bursts. Yeah.
and I think that all speaks to what we're talking about. You know, if you had a person sitting across from you, whether they were Hindu or Muslim or Christian or atheist, you'd probably be able to find some sort of human way that you guys could bond and contact. But
You
when you get
should.
a group, yeah, you get a group of Christians and a group of Hindus or a group of Muslims, then they start thinking alike altogether, and then you start having conflicts. So on a human basis, we should be able to overcome this, but unfortunately, we are a species that herds, we segregate each other, and then that leads to a fear of the other, a fear of who's outside, uh, and you know, people unfortunately take advantage of that.
Mm,
And then the next thing you know, you've got $1 trillion defense budget, and you know,
exactly.
no health care for people.
I think that there is a one point we should mention. You and me, we have already spoken about that last time we chatted on Skype. But there's a thing that should be mentioned here. I asked you last time, what do you think about America in general being like interventing, being like a police going anywhere where it's happening in the world, and asked you if it's the way how to do it, and if you shouldn't just let them do whatever they want to because it's their business. And um, you actually said a really nice thing last time. Uh,
I did.
yeah, you mentioned that there's a way how that you can actually do it right, and I agree with that.
I'm just saying that if we were actually truly a force for peace, that it could actually be done.
Yeah, that there's a way how to actually have a this global police to actually there's a some things that you should follow that are kind of that should be in every one of us. And
Well, if we, and when I say we, I mean as a global people, you know, truly cared about injustice and you know, starving people, people downtrodden, people not able to express themselves freely, living in dictatorships. There's no shortage of that. We could definitely do good all around the world,
Hmm.
and the fact that we don't shows that we're either weak or we're being manipulated by those people who gain from all of that existing. Take Saudi Arabia, for example. You
Mm.
know, women are totally oppressed. You know, the Saudi dictatorship runs a hard theological uh, dictatorship, yet they're an ally. Now, if they didn't have all that oil,
Mm.
and we truly cared about women's rights and the rights of the individual to speak freely and live freely, we'd be at war with Saudi Arabia, but we're not. If we really cared about people, having enough to eat, our missiles, Bill Hicks had a joke about, our missile technology could be turned for good if instead of a smart missile, it was a smart banana, and oh, there's someone starving, shoot him a banana.
It's a great
you know
point. Yeah.
yeah, it's the fact that we take our resources and what we do with them is we bastardize them for pain and for war and to subjugate people instead of freeing people. And that's all I was saying, is that here in the 21st century, we have the ability to travel across the globe. We have the ability to recognize right from wrong. And we've got these amazing resources available that we don't use for any type of good. People will say, oh, there's, the Red Cross and these charities and stuff, but
Mm.
that's, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
Obviously.
a global desire to alleviate pain and suffering, and we don't have that.
Yeah, there's a question if just United States just decided to invest more into, I don't know, let's say spreading information, like building schools and in different countries, and instead of it, they dropped the budget on defense and on the missiles and soldiers and tanks and planes and stuff like that. Um, yeah, there's a question if actually other factions wouldn't exploit that, and you see
I do.
what I mean, and they kind of exploited that, and they would become the supernation now. You see, and they would start doing the same thing that U.S. did that before. So
And next thing you know, we're living in a utopia.
yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. But that is not going to happen in our lifetime, man.
Mm. Who knows if it's gonna happen ever? So
Yeah, that's definitely a subject for another podcast because
utopia,
I'm sorry. Yeah, utopia
utopia.
is definitely a subject for another podcast because if something like that is possible, which I think it is, it would be thousands of years in the future. And I'm not talking, next turn of the century. I'm talking we'd have to go through, as a species, we'd have to go through huge calamities, monstrous man-made tragedies of economic, biological, terroristic proportions before we ever get rattled out of this complacent, I got mine, you got yours type of mentality.
Mm.
You
Actually,
know,
what I was thinking when this economical depression started, I was kind of hoping that people would kind of started bonding more. You see, that they would realize that the capital, that the money is they're relative a lot. They can be gone in a minute. You see,
yeah.
so they started seeing the more important things, and
No,
you see that's the opposite actually what's happening right now.
all that did was make people freak out and say, "Oh, I got to get more. I got to get more to make sure that the next time there's a crash, I've got enough to sustain myself." That didn't make people more egalitarian. It made them more selfish.
So
It had the
one
opposite.
one of my last statements for tonight is um, I don't want FBI to knock on my door, but I think we could maybe use some bigger disaster again, just to make people realize that it's relative and it can be gone in a moment. You
Well,
should just.
you heard of the project of the New American Century, right?
I haven't. What's it about?
That was a plan that was put together after the collapse of the Soviet Union by the neocons here in America, Paul Wolfowitz, Paul Bremer, Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney,
Oh yeah, I know these
to
two.
name a few. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they said, you know, in order for America to sustain its position as the leader of the globe, what we need to do now that Russia is out of the picture
Mm,
is is become the world's hyperpower by locking down all the strategic resources, by making sure that no country can ever rise again to the level of a Russia or a China that could challenge us. And what would really help would be an unlimited military budget.
mm,
And what would really help that would be something like a new Pearl Harbor.
mm.
Okay, and this was, I don't remember the year that this came out. It was in the early 90s. But as you know, here in America, we got a new Pearl Harbor. We had 9/11,
Mhm.
and what happened after 9/11? We didn't. If people were had a tendency to be shocked into things, 9/11 should have shocked us into thinking about how we treat other countries, the type of oppression that we visit upon
Right.
countries like Afghanistan and Iran and Saudi Arabia, but we didn't. What happened after 9/11 was we went to war with the
Mm,
wrong country. We ratcheted up the war machine to an incredible degree, and we built separate bureaucratic institutions, the Department of Homeland Security, which is a bloated, monstrous, pretty much a KGB of America. And so we went the total opposite of what we should have done. We should have had a self-realization as a nation, and instead we hunkered down, we lashed out, and we gave up what little freedoms we did have here in America. And now they've gotten such the fascists have such a toehold that it really looks like the goals of the project of the new American century are going to be realized, and that America is, for good or ill, going to have a lock on all the resources, and we will bomb any country that asserts any power whatsoever.
That's where you get
So
the conspirational theories on 9/11 that
it's
it was. Yeah.
conspiratorial, but it's true. I don't necessarily subscribe to the theory that they did it. You know, that 9/11 was an inside job. I don't
Right.
know about that. I do feel that they might have seen it coming and went ahead and let it happen,
Right.
knowing that they could get the wheels turning after it happened. But whether they did it or not, whether it was an inside job or not, or done by the Zionists or whoever, there's all sorts of speculation. That I won't subscribe to.
Right.
There's no denying what's happened after 9/11, though.
So it seems like it's about it. Is there anything more you'd like to mention or say? Like
No,
some sort of a final statement?
not really. I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, you were fantastic. I must say, personally, I really enjoyed this podcast. So once more, thank you very much for joining me here.
Emes, it was my pleasure.
Mine as well. So, thank you very much for listening. If you would like to contact our friendly, how you call yourself? What's the word you call yourself?
Friendly misanthrope.
Misanthrope. Yeah. If you want to
Yeah.
call, if you want to contact our friendly misanthrope Chard, he's got his own YouTube channel. He's gonna be really happy having tons of emails in his because he likes to speak to people.
Yeah, send them over. Chartomania, I'm at YouTube. That's where I spend a lot of my time.
He's got really interesting and I would say important videos, so check them out. And if you,
Their playlists, none of those videos are mine.
yeah, obviously he's got
Okay,
playlists,
I don't want to take credit for other people's
but
stuff. They're just
it's
playlists.
but it's even more important to actually put them together to actually show that what's good and what's bad. But I would say you're doing a great job just by having the small channel. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
He's you can't see him, but he's bowing.
I'm bowing. Yeah, I'm humble.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed our rambling, then like, comment, subscribe, and if you would like to be a guest in one of my podcasts in a not that distant future, just let me know under the videos, or there is a email address in my profile. So goodbye and thanks for listening.